Battlefield 2042. Moments ago, DICE dropped a load of new gameplay details and information about the game, and I think this is a response to the large amount of questions that they received after the reveal. And in this we learned several things, including the name of the robot dog, specifics on crossplay, AI and more. There was some repeated info in here too, but I'm not going to go over that, and we're just going to be looking at anything that's brand new. So we're going to start off with the most interesting parts of the post here, beginning with loadouts. So we all know how specialists work by now. They've got their unique gadget and trait, and then they can choose any primary weapon, any equipment, secondary weapon and throwable. So they gave an example of a loadout that McKay could have. They went with the M5A3 assault rifle, that's the all-around rifle in the game. The supply crate for their equipment, their secondary as a G57, and the throwable as a frag grenade. And then they elaborated a bit on the equipment slot, because this caused a lot of controversy, I think, when people realized, oh, any specialist in the game can carry a rocket launcher, so does that mean that vehicles are just going to be dunked on the second they spawn? For example, you could opt for a Carl Gustaf M5, which is an unguided rocket launcher effective against vehicles at mid-range, or would you instead like an anti-air approach via the FIM-33 AA missile? Choosing a more explosive approach for your equipment slot would mean you won't be able to carry a medical crate or a supply crate, and thus leaves you without health or ammo replenishing options, so choose wisely. So they've kind of explained there that if you're taking a rocket launcher, then you won't be able to take health and ammo, so you'll be relying on teammates in your squad to do the same. So hopefully there's just never a scenario where everyone is carrying a rocket launcher. They clarified that squads will be a maximum of 4 players, and they said that in Conquest and Breakthrough, squads can contain more than one unique specialist, so you can have duplicates of specialists within your squad. They didn't say hazard zone there though, so I'm assuming that in that game mode you can only have one of each specialist in your squad, and I guess that kind of fits with the high stakes nature of it that they've been talking about. Squad revives are returning too. They'll take longer and they don't bring back players on full health. Next up, Robot Dog. The name of Robot Dog is Ranger, and we saw that briefly in the reveal trailer. Got a lot of question marks. Is it a vehicle? Is it player controlled? What's going on? Well, they said that Ranger is neither a speciality or a trait, and it won't be unique to any specialist. Instead, everybody has the opportunity to call Ranger in when in need of support. However, when you make that choice, you are choosing Ranger over other options available within the call-in system. There is of course a limitation on the amount of Rangers available at any given time, so I don't think you'll ever see a scenario where you've got 128 robot dogs in the battle, although that would be hilarious. Once safely on the ground, a Ranger will follow and protect you, and even put your life above their own. You'll also be able to issue orders such as scouting a location, having them return to you and follow you. If a situation becomes dire, you can also command Ranger to self-destruct. This gives you several new interesting tactical options, such as do you send Ranger into the line of fire, or maybe as a decoy in order to flank the enemy. Your choices are critical, as Ranger is a light unit designed for anti-infantry combat, but can be easily knocked out by enemy fire, explosives or EMP. And yes, before you ask, you can place a C5 explosive on Ranger and send them into an enemy squad. I don't know if I could do that to my robot dog, but that's a new Battlefield moment right there. The next bit is really juicy. It's about the AI or the bots in the game. So they confirmed that there are 3 distinct experiences with AI. There's a multiplayer, and in this, AI soldiers are used for server filling capabilities, making it easier for you to matchmake when you want to play. Players always have priority over AI when playing multiplayer. Co-op, that allows you to play together with friends against AI soldiers, and solo if you wish to perfect your skills for multiplayer. You can even play alone against AI soldiers. If you're new to Battlefield, AI soldiers are a great option to learn the mechanics of Battlefield at your own pace without the pressure and competition that comes with multiplayer. And then they elaborated on how AI soldiers will actually play on the battlefield. AI soldiers are intended to play the game like how you would play it yourself. However, they're not designed to be specialists and cannot use traits and specialities. They're their own class of soldier, I suppose, the default looking grunts that we saw in the trailers. You'll see them undergoing certain tasks such as using the vehicle calling system and engaging with vehicles or capturing objectives. And whilst they can't use a wingsuit, they do have the intelligence to decide between engaging with you via enemy fire, flanking, throwing grenades, or even reviving a downed squad mate. So it sounds like the AI is pretty advanced, and we know that DICE have been working on this for a number of years now, implementing self-learning and pre-programmed AI in the game. So can you completely opt out of using AI soldiers? In the all-out warfare set of experiences of Conquest and Breakthrough, AI soldiers are used to backfill servers and you cannot opt out of playing with them. However, there is a cap to how many of them you can encounter in a multiplayer match. In general, you will not experience more AI soldiers than players unless the match is still filling up or almost empty. Players will always have matchmaking priority over AI. As an example, if there are 120 players out of 128 players currently in a server, 8 AI soldiers will join the match to help even out the teams. Should a player leave, another AI soldier will temporarily replace them until a new player joins the game. We're providing them as a helpful option to ensure that you won't have trouble matchmaking and you can fully enjoy the all-out warfare chaos that you can expect from a Battlefield match. And another popular question about AI was, okay, well, if I can play solo, does that mean I can play offline? And they've confirmed here for the first time that Battlefield 2042 is a multiplayer only experience. So while you can play solo against AI, if you'd like to practice, it will be in an online setting. So no offline mode for solo or anything. You have to be connected and online to play solo versus bots. Crossplay. Here we go. One of the most frequently asked questions is about crossplay. We can confirm that it's a function we're looking to build and test for Battlefield 2042. To accommodate that, we've made the decision to move the technical playtest to later this summer. So we'll have the opportunity to test the crossplay functionality. This means a few thousand participants will join us to help test some of our new features and functionality that we're building from the ground up for Battlefield 2042. And I guess their first public test of that will be in this technical playtest. They said originally that was going to be early July. That hasn't happened, and now they've moved it to later this summer. They didn't give a date for that. It says we'll test a subset of crossplay functionality during the technical playtest. This means during this we will test PC, Xbox Series XS and PlayStation 5 consoles. They'll all be playing together. And that makes sense to me because if you think about it, they'll be running the same version of the game with 128 players. And they confirmed there what I just said. PC and next gen playing together. Xbox One and PlayStation 4 playing together. And there's a little note there, look at that. PC and console can opt out from playing together. That's massive news for the console players because I know there's a lot of console players out there who just don't want to play with PC players because of the possibility of cheats and also the advantages that PC players have, like mouse and keyboard, higher FPS, lower graphic settings, that kind of thing. So I think it's cool that DICE are giving people that option to opt out if they want. About cross progression and cross commerce, alongside crossplay, we're also building cross progression and cross commerce for Battlefield 2042, which will be shared across all platforms and travel with you wherever you go. For example, your unlocked progress and purchases in your PlayStation copy of the game will carry on over to the Xbox or PC version and vice versa. That's awesome. Thumbs up from me. There was a bit about vehicles here. Do the factions have their own vehicles? Yes, the iconic vehicles that you come to know and love will be faction specific. And this means that you'll get to use iconic Russian or US hardware depending what side you're on. For an example, tanks, Russia will get the T-28 versus the M1A5 on the US side. You'll also encounter vehicles that anyone can play with, such as the Nightbird helicopter, that's the little bird I think, or the EBAA Wildcat heavy ground vehicle. Will there be naval vehicles in sea warfare? You can expect to see naval-oriented vehicles such as the LCAA hovercraft. However, there isn't a focus on naval specific warfare right now. We've seen your comments about how excited you are for naval warfare, so stay in touch with us about what you'd like to see in the future. So the only naval-ish vehicle is that hovercraft, so no actual boats at launch, but that comment there, it does look like at some point down the line we'll be getting boats. It's a Battlefield game, so I'm sure we'll see naval combat at some point in that live service. How does the vehicle calling system work? While you can still spawn directly into vehicles from the deploy screen, one other important change we've made to accommodate the increased map scale is to make it possible for you to call in vehicles when and where you need them. And this system is accessed via a tablet and it's available to all players no matter what specialist you're using. And there's some things to keep in mind though. It's dependent on the map and the mode, and that will have a specific budget assigned to each team. So don't expect to see, again, like the robot dog thing, 128 tanks at once. It seems that there's a limit. You'll still spawn into air vehicles such as aircrafts and helicopters from the deploy screen, and once you've called in a vehicle you will incur a cooldown, so everyone has got a fair chance to call in support, so you can't just spam vehicles over and over again. And then there's a couple things here specific to Conquest, how the maps work, and also the differences between the 64 and 128 player experiences. So on Xbox One and PS4 old gen, you'll have access to the same gameplay features that they've announced for next gen and PC. So that means weapons, vehicles, specialists and gadgets will all remain the same no matter what platform you're playing on, as will dynamic weather events like the tornadoes or environmental hazards like EMP storms, sandstorms. The main difference between console generations is that we've made adjustments to the playable area on the maps to ensure a fluid play experience on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Can you fight on every floor of the skyscraper? You'll not be able to play on every level of a skyscraper, but you can expect lobby and rooftop combat, which can be accessed via elevators and zip lines. As fighting on all levels of a skyscraper would be an entire map on its own, this prevents detracting from the rest of the map. Another big concern from the community was, can you differentiate between specialists on your own and enemy team? Because people thought, well, if they can pick the same ones as my team can, then how am I going to know who an enemy is? Well, they said here that there's going to be blue icons for teammates, green for squad mates, and red for enemies. There are also other options and systems that we're still testing that will assist you in distinguishing enemy players on the field. And I think what they mean by that is what I talked about previously in the behind the scenes presentation that they gave us. We saw some snippets of gameplay and the enemy team did look a bit darker than the friendlies on your team. That could be what they're referencing there. There might be some filter in place. There'll also be plenty of options available in the form of skins, which can alter your appearance to allow you to choose how you'd like your specialist to stand out on the battlefield. So the same two specialists can look vastly different, is what they're saying. And finally, that bit about conquest and how the maps work. They've talked about this idea of clustering, and they've introduced this to create deliberate areas of activity and capture areas for people to engage with. They've talked about sectors, which changes how players gain control of an area. So in order to successfully capture the sector, a team must seize and maintain control over all flags within that sector. And they gave an example of a more fluid and targeted combat scenario in a conquest match where you're attacking a sector, you capture the first flag, and in previous games you and your squad would immediately be on the move then to the next capture flag, a different area of the map. But because of the changes with conquest in this game, you've now got to establish a foothold in that sector and you can spawn and confront the enemy to take further flags within it. So it creates a higher intensity fight for the full sector, and only when the full sector has been captured you can then make the decision on where to go next. And they say that this will reduce the back and forth running between flags and puts a focus on the sector itself. Oh, okay, so there was a ton of new information on there, loads of gameplay details, and they've definitely cleared a lot of stuff up there and gone into a bit more detail. People were looking for answers based on the reveal and the gameplay, and hopefully for now everything they've shown, they've kind of answered that. But do let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below, how you're feeling, what you're thinking about everything. With that said, I'm out of here. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.